Hey everyone, Cheryl from Teaching 2 and 3-year-olds. I love using our sensory bin in our classroom every day. And so I thought I'd share some of my favorite ways to use it. Now, the sensory bin is great, obviously, for sensory experiences. You've got the different textures going on, but the sensory table is also a wonderful way to work fine motor skills. So whenever I'm putting together a sensory bin, I'm always thinking about the tools that I'm adding to get those hands and fingers working. So first, let's talk about filler. A sensory bin always needs to have some sort of filler. Now, these are a few of my favorites. Kinetic sand. This stuff is amazing. And it appears to be costly, but I will tell you that it lasts a long time, and ours has not dried out. Now we have it, we've just taken it out of the box and we have it in this Ziploc bag. But we share our kinetic sand with 4 classes, and we have been using this all year round, rotating who has it when. But it's wonderful, and if you haven't played with it yet, you must, because it has this amazing ability to just kind of drip over your hands, and it changes depending on how you're using it. So I have to tell you, kinetic sand is a must. You can also use regular sand. I like to use clean sand that is meant for sandboxes. And the white sand is wonderful. So that's another thing that you can put in your bin as well. Another fun favorite is shredded paper. Now this actually, I got this as packing material for a gift I got. And teachers are always resourceful. I thought, I'm saving this for a sensory bin. So this is fun. Another fun thing to put in your sensory bin is dyed rice. You just take white rice, uncooked of course, and then you dye it. And you just simply put it in a Ziploc bag with some food coloring. I like to use Wilton's icing gels and a little bit of vinegar, just enough so that it kind of moves the color around, and you just keep smushing the bag until it's evenly distributed. Pour it all out onto a paper towel that's on a cookie sheet, let it dry. We use this over and over and over again. And then of course, my real favorite is water. I love using water in the sensory bin because it is amazing for fine motor skills, and it's also very calming for our children. We love it outside, and almost always one of our sensory bins outside has water in it, but it's fun indoors too. Now, let me tell you about how much to put in your sensory bin. You don't have to have that much. In fact, that was one of the lessons I've learned along my 20 years of teaching is it's best to have a little bit less, because then you're not having as much coming out of the bin. So just having it be no more than halfway full. I even actually sometimes only have it be a third, depending on what is in it. And from the very first day, we work on cleaning up what comes out of the sensory bin. So I like to keep these little hand brooms with the dustpan. I slide them underneath the table. It's there. When I see that the children might be getting some of the pieces out, we stop and we sweep. Really, really easy. And actually, they really enjoy sweeping. You can even get these. You can get these at the dollar store. They're not very expensive. And having a few works out better, because then you can get a few children sweeping at the same time. What do you do when a child deliberately starts tossing everything out of the sensory bin? You want to start from the very first day, letting your children know that the rules of the sensory bin is that everything stays inside the bin. Now, it's not going to, no matter what, especially with 2-year-olds, they might not be deliberately dumping everything out. They often will take a cup, they'll do this, they'll hear something and they'll turn around to look, and then the stuff comes out. That happens. Deliberately though is when they're scooping and they're deliberately dumping. Scooping, dumping. And so we really work on, that needs to stay in the bin, we don't dump that out. I one year had a child who just absolutely, that's what he loved to do. So I actually got a bin and he scooped the pieces from the sensory table and dumped them into the bin. It really worked well for him. That's you have to kind of see if that is what you need to do. But usually I just really work on it needs to stay in the sensory table And if it keeps happening, oh, we might need to close it for a while and try again. So we just keep working on not having deliberate spills, but accidental spills are gonna happen. They do year round, and that is why we have the broom. What tools do you put in the sensory bin? These are my favorites. Now, before I start this, let me say that I see these really, really cute sensory bins on Pinterest. Darling, they look so cute when they're photographed, but I'm gonna tell you right now, they're so not practical when you have a classroom of 2- and 3-year-olds, because they don't care so much about all the cute little props that you're setting up. Here's what they wanna do. They wanna have some kind of filler, and they wanna have some kind of tools to do something with that filler. And that's why I always make sure I have some sort of scooping, pouring, something transferring so they can move that filler around. So here are some of my favorites. I love cups. Scoop and pour, especially with 2-year-olds. Scoop and pour. They can do that all day long. Scoop and pour. And we like to also use strainers. Scoop, and then they might see that if it's really fine, it comes right through the holes. Same thing with funnels. Scoop, oh, look at the pieces coming through the hole. And notice that some pieces don't fit in the hole because they're too big, but other pieces do, and you can use different sizes of funnels. And I absolutely love bug tongs. And if you have been on my website, you see that I use these a lot because they mimic using scissors, and they are great for scooping up, and you can see what you're scooping up, transferring, and then dropping it either back into the sensory bin or into a cup. So these are wonderful. You'll notice that with 2-year-olds, they might start like this, but eventually they'll get it so that thumb and fingers, again, mimicking scissor skills. That's why I love these so much. Just these little plastic scoops. You can get these at the dollar store. I've seen these at all different kinds of stores in the kitchen section. Just some kind of a scoop. They can scoop again and pour. I like to make sure that I have at least 4 in the bin, because depending on how many children you have at a time in your sensory bin, you want to make sure that you have more than one of these so they all can use it. Otherwise, they're all going to be fighting over it. When they get a little bit older, you can start using tweezers. I like this brand here, and they can pick up the pieces, transfer them, drop them. And for water droppers, this brand by Learning Resources is my very favorite dropper. I'll put a link in the description. I love these. We use these all the time because they just pick up the water, they suck it up, and they release it. Look at how it is working on the thumb and fingers. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. We use these also at the art table often as well. Tinting the water is a really good idea. Use some liquid watercolors because as they're scooping up the water, they can see it. And then it's a little bit more of a visual for them. So those are my favorite tools. Anything you can think of that they can pick up the pieces and transport them. That is, to me, what a successful sensory bin is. It's all about moving the pieces around. What about the sensory bin itself? We have this one right here. This is by Jaunty Craft. It is a see-through. I love it because of the whole thing that you can see through and see the pieces in there. I also love it because it's deep and it's pretty big. But another thing I also like is that you can take it out, and it has a little drain. You can drain if you have water in there. But you don't have to have something this fancy. When I first came to this preschool 20 years ago, we had a sensory bin that was put together by the parents, and the frame was made of PVC pipe. When I've showed pictures in the past of this sensory bin, I've had people wanting to know how it was made. I never did get how exactly it was put together, but it looked really easy, and it lasted for over 15 years. And then we placed this bin The frame was built so that this cement mixing bin could just set right inside it. You can find these cement mixing bins at Lowe's and Home Depot. And here's the other nice thing. If you don't have a sensory bin at all, you don't need to. You can just take a bin like this, just set it on the floor, put a tarp down, set it right down on the floor, or if you have some, or just on a table, put a tarp on the table, set this sensory bin right on top. This is really all you need. You don't have to be as fancy as this. I happen to love this. This was a great fundraising piece that we got for our classroom. Actually, all of our classrooms have this same sensory bin. I'll drop a link in the description if you're interested, but you can use one of these. You can also take a big like a Rubbermaid bin, as big as you can get, and you can have that as well. Or if it's just one child, if you're doing this at your house and you're just gonna have one child using it, you don't need a real big bin. Just think of something to contain everything. So those are my tips for sensory bins. I will drop the link in the description to show you some different ways that we have used our sensory bin. And I'd love to know, how do you use your sensory bin? What are some of your favorite sensory bin fillers? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.